So when we place the bowl on here, the steam's going to heat it up, and it's going to do it a little more gently. So we'll get back to that, but let's move over. And thanks again so much for telling me to hit record. There we go. I should just do it when I come in. All right, so here I have my food processor, and that's set up for one reason, and that's because I have sugar here, and I did not find any bar sugar. I can't seem to find bar sugar in Florida. I don't know.
What is bar sugar?
Bar sugar is superfine.
Oh, okay.
Superfine sugar, and the only reason I want superfine sugar is because it's going to dissolve a lot easier in the eggs, and it's not going to be as grainy and granular. And some of the complaints I get sometimes, I have over 500 comments on this blog post, is that it was the eggs were a little grainy. Well, sometimes if you really don't have a good hand at what you're doing, it's hard to get the sugar to melt properly and to break down. So that being said, when you can't find bar sugar, you make your own. So I have a food processor here, and you can do it in a blender.
Oh my gosh, life-changing tip number 2.
Now I'm just gonna, you just don't want to make 10x sugar, which it will eventually get to.
Oh, it would?
Okay, eventually, yeah. Pretty close to it.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so that is much finer. It's a powder.
Wow, that's fantastic. I mean, it's so simple, but you know, it changes everything.
So anytime you're making a dessert that you're going to put sugar in, and you don't want to take the chance of it being grainy, depending on how you're using it, you grind it up a little. Superfine always works better. So I've got that here. I'm just going to kind of push that back in my bowl here. And then I am done with the mixture. Now, you know, it's not tiny grains, but it's a lot better than it was. And it's not quite powder. So again, there is that fine line between making it powder, which you don't want to do.
Well, again, I mean, these few steps you've already gone through, it's a sort of nuance that's very important.
Yeah.
In terms of the bowl, the type of bowl, the water, the sugar. You know, these make a difference. I can see.
If anybody wants to come in, if you have any questions, you know, just please feel free during it. We just ask that, you know, you're respectful of our time and space, and that you have your question, and then you can pop out. So please feel free to do that. All right, so now, before I get started, I want to give my whipped cream some time to start. So I want to do my whipped cream next. So I have my bowl in the freezer. Okay, so it's nice and cold.
Now, okay, what difference does that make?
Well,
having the bowl chilled.
It's gonna whip better.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not a deal breaker. It's just you don't want to use a warm bowl. You want to use a bowl that is going to aid you in the whipped cream. There we go. That's better. And the recipe calls for, I think, 1 3/4 cups of cream. These amounts aren't etched in stone.
I grew up on whipped cream. My mother came from Europe. She came from Denmark, and everything she did from scratch. So she always had whipped cream for, I don't know, whatever dessert she was making. She would always whip it herself and take the time. And let me tell you, she just was so precise, and it always came out
part
perfectly.
Of the problem is with whipped cream is that people try to force it. All right, now there's no sugar in here. There's no vanilla in here. It's just plain. We're not adding any other flavor to it because this is one of our binders. So I'm just going to turn this on, and I'm going to let it whip slowly. And it's going to whip slowly, and I'm going to build it up as it goes. We're just going to increase the speed a little by little, more as it goes. So the problem that people have is they want to put it on high right away. And it'll whip the cream. And if you're going to use it, it'll be fine. But if it's going to sit, if you're mixing it into something that you want to hold up, and you fast whip it and just get all that air into it, it's going to break down. It's going to break down faster than if you, well, I got the camera on the mixer, Michael. I don't know how much better I can get it. We're just seeing. He's going to have to.
Oh, yeah. That's better. That's good. Good, good, good.
Whew. Okay, whip it good. Yet. Yeah.
So you take your time. You start slowly.
Because, I have made dishes, and I've made some, like strawberry shortcakes with it and stuff, and people say, well, you didn't add any gelatin to it. You're like huffy, like ha ha ha. You don't know what you're doing. I'm going, well, I don't have to add gelatin to it because I'm whipping it very slow. Now, granted, if it was something that I was really worried about it breaking down that didn't have another coagulant in it, this has got eggs. So the eggs are going to act as your other binder to keep it from breaking down, that and the cheese. If I was making chocolate mousse, the chocolate would act as the coagulant to keep it from breaking down. But if I'm making strawberry shortcake, that's strawberries, cream, and cake, and it's going to break down. So by whipping it nice and slowly, it'll probably take a good close to 10 minutes to finish.
I was going to say 10 minutes. I remember my mother doing it for 10 minutes for some reason. But if you do it a little bit longer, doesn't it get sort of chunky and dry?
And this is basically how we would make butter,
So then is there any going back from that?
You probably could add a little more cream to it. Try and unsolidify it a little bit. But, once you get that kind of grainy texture to it, it might look better. I just don't know how the mouthfeel is going to be. It's still going to have some of that problem with it. So, it's better. This is something like right now, I can walk away from it, go do some stuff, come back, it's going to be fun. As soon as I start to turn it up a little more, which I'm going to do now because we've got some air in it, is, once you start to get it to the point where it could whip on its own, then you have to be careful. All right, so.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's definitely, a watch. You don't walk away.
Right,
you
so
definitely
while that's doing,
watch.
I'm just going to separate my eggs. So let's leave that there. Let's come back here and separate the eggs. All right, so I'm going to put one over here, one over here, one up now.
Oh, they look like nice organic farm fresh eggs.
So I'm just going to crack these up, and I'm going to get my whites and yellow out. I remember the Three Stooges is what I did, and Mo told him to separate the eggs, so he put one in every corner of the table. But, it's not, you can do this with your hand. You can do this with, the eggshell like I'm doing.
I love separating eggs. I mean, there's something, I don't know, it's a feeling of control or something. There's something about it. It's fun. It's like a fun little thing to do.
This is probably the easiest way to do it if you don't mind touching egg. You wash your hands well afterwards.
Oh my gosh, I never thought of that.
I did warm them up a little bit. I did, and the easiest way to warm up eggs is to put the whole eggs in a bowl and then put warm water over it and let them sit in it for about 10 minutes. And that way they're not ice cold, especially when you're making cakes. The eggs will make your batter react differently if they're cold, just like butter. If the butter is too cold, it will make it react differently.
Now, doing the eggs that way, or whatever you're doing in the kitchen where you're touching things that aren't so great, is to have a touchless faucet. I have a faucet that is touchless. You just it's bipolar, and you just put your hand underneath it, and the water goes on. Let me tell you, this is what we have to get for your kitchen. You need a touch, especially you. You need a touch.
I think you need one that I can talk to and say, all right, on faucet.
You know what? I bet that's next.
All right, so there is a little bit of white in here, and I may just try and get some of it out, just so there's not too much, or just a little bit too much. But we've got our egg yolks here. So you're pretty much good to go. I just want to make sure I always, even though I've made this 100 times, I always read instructions just to make sure I'm not forgetting something. Because the minute you do, that's when you forget something. Okay. I saw a lemon there, and I went, wait a minute, there's no lemon in tiramisu. But it's lemon color. So let me go back. Move this over here. Set. Whipped cream. I just want to, just about ready. Just going to get it whipping a little bit more. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by getting this water hot. So I'm going to turn this on. I'm going to put the eggs in the bottom of my bowl just to get them situated. And then when that heats up, the whipped cream should be just about done. And then we're going to start making the sabayon. And that's really the only hard part of this dessert. Okay. So now as the volume of the whipped cream is building up,
Oh, yeah, it is.
Starting
That's
to
looking
thicken.
good. Looking great.
in the old days, everything was whipped with a wire whip in a bowl. So there was no super fast speed to it. It took some time. So this is just taking a little time to whip. But it's also going to be stable. And then you just want to try and get to the bottom of it.
And now, so what is it on? About number 3 or 4?
The mixer is actually on 6 right now.
Oh,
2,
okay.
4, 6. So, it's just about done. I'm going to kick it over to 8 and 10 a little bit.
Oh, yeah. It got even thicker in the last 30 seconds.
And that's about it. Now I'm just going to check, because sometimes you just don't notice the bottom of the bowl is wet.
Mm-hmm.
And the quickest way to ruin something is to have too much fluid at the bottom. So I'm just doing this by hand, that little wetness, and that'll just be, it can be the death of you sometimes if you don't realize. So that's nice and thick. You see.
Oh, look at that. That's a great
Now,
tip. Just to give it a
now,
little.
absolutely no sugar in it. So if I was to taste it now, it's going to be one of those kind of flavors. So I'm just going to stick this while we're making the sabayon in the refrigerator. Because I want to keep it nice and cold. We're done with this. Plug the mixer. And you can do the whipped cream ahead of time. It can sit. You don't want it to be too solid. You still want it to be pliable, but you can let it sit. Now see the water here? Let's move back.
But now, how long can you keep the whipped cream refrigerated? A day?
You just want to go back in there with a flexible wire whip and whip it up a little bit more so it's not stiff and kind of crunky. Hey there. Hey, John's in the house. Sounds good. Okay. So anyway, you see the water's boiling. I'm going to crank this down to 1. All right. Now, this is the thing here. I'm going to get the eggs over. It's got some steam in there, and I'm going to start whipping. Yeah, put it.
Pressure. I feel pressure.
Yeah, I know. I feel pressure in my chest here now. So I want to start whipping these up.
You're going to add the sugar to that,
I
right?
just wanted to get them a little whipped first, and then I'm going to start putting in the sugar. And this will go well.
Do you feel any different consistency? Can you identify how it should feel?
No, it's going to thicken up pretty radically, and it's going to get pale. But it's so thin right now, you're not going to feel a whole lot when you're doing this. And it's just a matter of, I had one woman making it. She said she had to get her husband to help halfway through because it had gotten a little tiring. So this is something, while it is tiring for me, I kind of know the process and I'm used to it. And I will switch hands every now and then just for a little break. But you don't want to just dump all the sugar in at one time. You notice I switched my grip. I went from here to here. So you can do that too.
So Mia dropped by.
Hey, Mia.
And Human 2 wants you to deliver it to him in bed via a drone.
We have to talk to Amazon about that. Anybody wants to jump in, come on in. I'll let you in as soon as I finish putting the sugar in. And as it goes in, you can get a little bit quicker with it. And practice is what helps you know how fast you can put it in. I see the water is barely steaming. I'm going to turn it up just a little bit because now that I'm done pouring, I can pick the bowl up if I need to. And that's what you want to be able to do. And keep a towel by, like I have one right here, just in case I need to pick it up. And it's too hot for me.
Okay, so you're waiting now for it to get thick.
Yeah, it's going to be a little while. So if you want to talk about it,
oh, sure, absolutely.
feel free.
Yep. So, For those of you who are new, and of course those of you who are regular viewers, you know that I'm a kitchen designer. And I'm a kitchen designer for many years. I'm up here in Long Island, as you can probably tell by my lovely Long Island accent. And, you know, I always like to think about, you know, talk about design issues in comparison to what chef is cooking. So if we talk about baking in the kitchen, you know, some people design their kitchen around baking. Some people are big bakers, and maybe they'll have a designated area that will be for baking. And frequently we see in designing the kitchen for those who like to bake, or those who maybe want a countertop that can do double duty. For example, a baking countertop may be lower in height, maybe a few inches, 3 to 6 inches lower in height. And the reason for that is sometimes if you're rolling out dough or if you're using your arms, it's more comfortable to have a lower surface to use the force from your arms to work with those doughs and roll things out and so on and so forth and do what has to be done for baking. Now, you know, you could do sort of a hybrid thing. You can put a baking surface. Many people like marble, which is, of course, a traditional baking surface, maybe integrated into their regular countertop. So you use it as a normal countertop, and it's there when you want it for baking. Or, as I mentioned, a lower height, which could also be used for other things, such as, you know, put a stool up there for kids to work on, or you know, just for other uses in addition to baking. It depends on how much of a baker you are. Now, the other thing is storage. Storage for baking equipment. You have sometimes we just keep on getting those, you know, so much equipment. We have the mixers, we have the you know, beautiful bakeware, and then we have the baking equipment and the sheets and so on and so forth. You know, it can certainly be helpful to store all of that in the same spot. So it's easily accessible, you know right where to go. But then the next question, as I mentioned before, is what is the frequency of use? Now, we don't all have large kitchens where every single thing has a place necessarily. In fact, I moved into my house last November, and I have, I'm redoing my kitchen now. It turns out I have 3 spots for kitchen equipment, and 2 of them are not in the kitchen, but they're nearby. So I have a closet, I don't know, you know, 10, 20 feet away outside the kitchen. I will be putting a lot of my baking and serveware items in that closet, which is actually half a closet for kitchen things and half a closet for my grandchildren's toys and things like that. This is probably going to overtake the rest of that space very soon. But the point is, then I know where to go. What I won't be keeping there is heavy items like my KitchenAid mixer. I'll probably put my hand mixer there, but the KitchenAid mixer, you know what? I think I'll find a place for that on the counter, because the heavy items, if you don't have them easily accessible, I'll tell you, you may sometimes just not want to do the recipe because, okay, I have to take, you know, go lug this out. So be aware of accessibility issues. You know, it will make your cooking more enjoyable, more accessible. And also baking sheets, you know, that they are very good to store vertically. They can be stored, of course, in the kitchen, which is not only for baking, but for, you know, all sorts of items, as we know. And putting them in a base cabinet or an upper cabinet, particularly a refrigerator or an oven cabinet, stored vertically is a breeze to just take it out. So that's something I would definitely recommend. And you know what? You can get the inserts very easy. They're very inexpensive. And one last thing I would really recommend is music. You need music in the kitchen. In fact, we just bought the Amazon Echo, and it's that, I don't even know what you would call it, but it's almost like a Siri thing. So all I have to do, I don't have to worry about apps and this and that. I say, Siri, shuffle Grateful Dead, or Siri, shuffle whatever music I want to listen to, instant on, and then it provides the mood. So, lots of, what kind of baking sheets do you like, Chef?
For baking sheets, I just use the old school kind of half sheet pans that I have. I mean, I come from a restaurant background, so I don't always use like those really pretty ones. I do have a couple of those special aerated ones that kind of slope down on the end. But I use those sometimes, but I always line them with parchment paper no matter what I'm doing. And depending upon what I'm baking, I might even spray it a little with some nonstick spray.
Yeah, I was wondering if you use parchment paper. I was wondering about that. And you know what I really want to know is how do you get brown sugar soft again?
How do you get it? Once it's hard?
Once it's rock.
Yeah, you got to mix it into some liquid and then let it dissolve at that point. You use it for baking that way. Mix it in with whatever liquid you might be putting into your baking items. Once it's hard, there's not a whole lot you can do. And even then, sometimes if might want to use it, save it, cook it down as simple syrup, and use it for another application.
Yeah, and that's also important with storing baking equipment, and also storing the baking food items, and watch out for your yeast expiration dates and all of your sugars. And I wouldn't necessarily store baking spices separately, such as cinnamon and some of those more baking type of spices I actually use in some meat recipes. So I mean, you can or you can't. It doesn't.
Yeah, you're going to keep what you use close to you, and that's the best thing. Just keep them away from direct heat. All right, so the eggs are thick. Now, there still is a little bit of granular from the sugar, and that's okay, because as I continue to add things into it, it's going to break down, and as it sits, it's going to break down. So don't get all upset if it's not completely smooth. Sometimes you're going to get lucky when you do it. And doing it in the double boiler does one very important thing you have to think about, too. It's cooking the eggs, all right? Cooking the eggs, so, gently heating them, but you're cooking them so you're getting rid of the chance of salmonella. So that is one of the reasons we do it. In the old days, we used to I would make it from a raw egg almost, but this is safer. So now we're going to add mascarpone cheese in. You can get this at just about
that's great.
It's kind of like cream cheese, got the tang, and it doesn't quite have that subtle flavor that cream cheese does, but it's perfect for this. And someone had asked if I was putting marsala in the Sabayon, and I don't particularly like that. You could, and if I was making a mousse, at this point I would add some liquid into it to continue the mousse. And if that's what you like, if you want to make a traditional Italian dessert, they make it with marsala in it. But I like my marsala in other sauces. I've never been a fan of them in desserts as much. So now I'm just going to fold in.
That looks so seamless, and seamless is not the word. It just looks so, what's the word I'm looking for?
Delicious.
It looks so smooth. Yeah.
Easy. So I put a little bit more mascarpone. Now this is a 16-ounce container, and I'm looking for a cup and a quarter. Again, not rocket science. You put a little bit more in, it's not going to kill it. Put a little bit less in, it may just be a little sweeter. Originally, I did have more sugar in this dessert. I have cut it back some. And if you think a cup is too much, you can cut it to 3/4. It's not not a deal breaker. Now, we are going to add some alcohol to this, but it's not coming in my Sabayon. I'm going to be using some Kahlua, and I'm going to be putting that into my coffee, because I like Kahlua. Mama likes Kahlua.
Oh, yeah.
It really has a nice flavor. Now, I've kind of folded this in, but I'm going to grab my whip because it is a little lumpy. I'm going to make sure I blend it in.
Wow. That looks great.
So now that I've got most of it folded in.
Okay, so I have an totally off the wall question.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, could you put food coloring in it?
Sure.
Could you make it a different color?
If you want to make tiramisu for St. Patrick's Day, make it green. Oh, this is good already. Oh, love it.
Nice.
All right, so that is your Sabayon with the mascarpone in here. And now I'm going to fold in some whipped cream. So I'm going to put some of it in. Now this, you do want to be a little more careful because you don't want to deflate the whipped cream.
It looks so fluffy. It looks so fluffy.
It's getting there. And then the whipped cream, when you taste it right now before adding the whipped cream, it's going to be a little sweet. So this is going to cut the sweetness down because remember.
Oh my gosh. That's just looking better and better.
I know.
Wow.
And it'll be ready for dinner tonight because it does have to sit a little while.
I mean, for me, that would be like cookie dough, which I like to eat.
Oh, yeah, when it's done. Like this was one of my most popular classes when I used to do online classes and people would pay to come in. They love this because of the simplicity. People think, tiramisu, oh my God, I could never make that.
I would pay to eat that with a spoon.
Yeah, I know. Well, that was how usually they were eating it. One guy was feeding it to his cat too. It was like.
Wow.
And I will tend, like when I'm making this, if you were making a bigger portion, you could take maybe 8 eggs instead of 6. You could, again, I'm telling you, it's not rocket science. This is the basic recipe. There's things you need to do to make it successful. I told them not to waste it on the cat either, but you know how people are with their cats sometimes. I give it to my dog, so I shouldn't say anything. But it's not rocket science. It's just a matter, the Sabayon is the critical point here, okay? So getting that over a pot, just like we did, cooking it, whipping it up, getting it thick, getting it pale yellow. So it will cook and it will thicken and it will act as your binder for this dessert. So if you want to use 8 eggs and you want to use that whole container of mascarpone, or you want to whip up 2.5 cups of whipped cream or 3 cups of whipped cream and add it in, taste it as you're adding it in.
Good. So there's some flexibility.
There's a lot of flexibility. Like I'm saying, once you make that Sabayon, it's not forgiving that you can just keep adding to it and keep adding to it, but it's not as critical. It's something you're going to bake and put in the oven. The Sabayon, like I said, is the one thing you need to get right. If it doesn't thicken, if you make scrambled eggs, it ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
You watch it and you make sure it's good. Your whipped cream is thickened properly because that's the other problem area, is people won't whip it enough. And you could almost over whip it a little. I'm not telling you to do that, but that would be less critical.
It's a workout.
Yeah,
Making this is a workout.
I know this is when my carpal tunnel kicks in.
Oh yeah, I bet.
Making tiramisu kind of gives me hope. Okay, now right now this is going to be.
It's a reward. It's a reward.
Well, that flavor is just to die for.
Sweet and savory, right? Little touch of savory.
No savory in this.
No, the cheese doesn't bring that in?
Not at all. It's going to be like cream cheese, and I'm going to stop eating this or I'll eat it all. Okay. I'm just going to put this aside, and now we're going to build our tiramisu very simply. Okay, we missed in the beginning. Lady fingers, Savarotti, or however you pronounce it. They're Italian lady fingers, which means crunch.
Okay.
Not cake lady fingers. And all right, so this is what I'm going to use to dip and build, and I'm going to see how.
Looks like a Corningware dish.
Well, it's not going in there. This is for my coffee.
Oh, okay.
Okay, now I have coffee, and you could use instant coffee.
I forgot about the coffee.
Tiramisu, instant espresso. If you have leftover coffee from the morning, or if you want to make some extra strong coffee or regular coffee, it's coffee, folks. Don't get all worked up about it anyway. And I'm going to put some coffee in there. And then I'm going to hit some Kahlua.
Nice. Oh.
Because we love the flavor. Now.
Wow, look at that. You're generous with the Kahlua. Jeez.
Now, this is when you're going to really enjoy the mixture of the flavors with the coffee. And again, Kahlua is not a deal breaker. You don't drink alcohol. If you can't have alcohol, get out. Not a big problem. If you want to put something else in, I would be careful with the flavors because you don't want it to be overpowering. You want it to be, you want it to go with it. So depending upon what other liquor you might put in here, might not really go with coffee.
Okay, well, yeah. So, for example, I don't see fruit liqueurs. Do you?
Some people have asked me, and they want to do it, and they like them. You know, as long as you're happy, that's all that matters. And, you know, in fact, you could layer this tiramisu with some fruit if you really wanted to. You could
What's that Italian licorice liqueur?
Is that Sambuca?
Sambuca.
Yeah, I mean that's Greek. So I mean, or is that Italian? I don't know. But anyway, it's very good. But you know, again, it's not quite gonna be that, like Michael said, balanced. Balanced flavor. All right. So again, it's your dessert. I would make it first this way, then take it another way. If you want to make this makes really good individual desserts, and I have done that. And I have made a peach tiramisu. Omitting the coffee and using some nice fresh peaches in between layers of tiramisu, of mascarpone. So you can do a lot. You can make ice cream out of it. So now I'm just very quickly, I have made ice cream out of this Sabayon mix. I'm going to very quickly just kind of dip them in. And I'm going to start layering. As I get tired of doing them, I'll do more than one at a time. You just want to try and not get them completely saturated. Worst thing in the world when I get tiramisu out and it's wet, it's soaking. Now, and you can put these in any way that they fit. I'm going to try and get as much area covered as you can.
I know, it seems like whenever I have tiramisu, it is, you know, I mean, should there be a little crispness, a little crunch?
No, not really. You're as much as you want there to be, there's not going to be crispness because it's going to absorb everything. But what you don't want is you don't want there to be a wet layer on the bottom.
Okay.
Okay. So here is my first layer. This is down. Now I'm going to take some cream. You're really going to have 2 layers of cream. So if you have a little cream left over, don't be heartbroken. You can eat it. So I just want to just get this in all the corners. And you can do this, like I said, you can do this in a bigger pan or you can do it in individual pans. I'm making a smaller one than I normally would today simply because I will eat it all. And that's not a good thing. And I don't know the neighbors well enough. I used to deliver tiramisu after I would make it. People would see me coming.
I think you'll have a line out the door, out your front door after this.
I delivered it one time, and I did not recognize the car, and this car pulled up, and the woman says, "Can I have him when you're done?" You know, she told me Lisa, and I've had marriage proposals from those two, from both sexes.
Well, that is looking good.
Yeah. So again, you know, I'm not saturating them. I'm going to get any of this off. I'm going to lay these down. You know, if you go in the wrong direction, and this is not, again, rocket science, it's going to get wet. It's just hard.
I mean, the assembly is so easy. I was thinking, I guess I was expecting I think I've often seen tiramisu in a round, in a curved pan, maybe where they're standing up around the edge. I mean, that's another way to
Charlotte, usually when the lady fingers are going around, a lot of times they do that with a Charlotte. You could do that, like if you had a nice pedestal round dish, you could do that. Okay, but you want to bite. These are more than just decoration. you want a bite of these to balance with the cream. Now with a Charlotte, they're more for just decoration and to make it look pretty or with the dessert that they go around. But this is actually more than that. And I do have more.
Oh, and they fit so perfectly. Oh,
well, this is my brownie pan. So this is my 9 by 9 inch or 8. I don't even know what it is, 8 by 8 inch brownie pan that it actually works with, and it never fails. That I have to get scissors. My hands are sticky. It never fails that I always end up opening one. But fear not, they're very tasty. Put them in a Ziploc bag. It's a nice little cookie. Have it with your coffee tomorrow. Ladyfingers are pretty good. Dip some in chocolate if you want to. You know, if you have some milk. So we're just going to soak a couple more of these up. Now this is going to be a pretty high tiramisu, which is good. I like that. So you don't have to make the slices.
You know, speaking of chocolate, I have another off-the-wall thought.
Yep.
Could you somehow thin down some Nutella and brush it on top before you put the cream? What do you think about that?
You could do it. It would add a different flavor. I might try it first in individual ones. And again, you could make them, this is going to be too big an individual, but if you wanted to make them for 2 people, say you want to deliver some to your friends, this is more than enough for 2 people. This is probably more like 3, but it's so good they'll eat it. But say you wanted to make it and you have a couple friends close by, you want to deliver them a little nice dessert. This would be a perfect size. You could make a couple of these or make this a little bigger and do it. But you could try Nutella, and I would try it first. Always try the original recipe first, see what you think, and it'll give you more of an idea of what you can actually do with it, where you can take it. Nutella might be very nice with it. I would wonder.
I can imagine it, you know, with Kahlua, and I think the flavors, the hazelnut, I think it could be interesting.
Could be very interesting. Or, you know, it may be something that you put a dollop of it thinned out into the cream for the flavor. Or you mix it in with your coffee instead. You know, I don't know how, I honestly have never used Nutella. I hate to say it, but...
It doesn't even last in my house. We get the spoon, and I don't even think we've used it. When I bought it, you know, my husband and I, we just sneak the spoon, and then it just goes. You know, we put on maybe a piece of bread, but then soon gone.
I've had it when I was in Europe, and it just, I don't know why. It just isn't. Maybe I'm expecting peanut butter, and it's not. But it's just one of those tastes that I know people love it, and it seems like more Europeans love it. European-based cultures love it than, you know, America. It's really big. That and Biscoff. Have you used Biscoff at all? That spread?
I'm sorry.
Biscoff.
Biscoff. What's Biscoff?
It's a cookie that they make into a spread as well.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I don't
Look for
think
it
I know that.
It's Biscoff, I think.
Oh.
Yeah, and you may very well like that. And this is so good. I'm sorry. Okay, this is it. How
another
has it been?
addiction.
We've been hemming and hawing 40 minutes. Could have been done a little faster, but that's all there was. Now, at this point, I'm going to put it in my refrigerator. As hard as it is, I'll let it sit for about 4 hours. Okay? And once it sets up for 4 hours, it'll slice, it'll hold up. I've had tiramisu last. It's gone as long as about 5 or 6 days in my house.
Oh, really? I was going to ask you how long it lasts.
And that's when I have made like humongous things for parties, and people just didn't eat everything else and didn't devour that. And when I had like 6 other cakes in the house, I wasn't eating it as heartily as I would have if it was the only one. So it will hold up. It will not weep. You want to keep it covered. If you're making this for a party at work tomorrow, or for dinner tomorrow, or for friends tomorrow, or, you know, it'll hold up fine in there. You might want to cover it very lightly, or you might want to put toothpicks in it and cover it over the toothpicks so the plastic doesn't stick to this. Then when you're ready to serve it, before you take it out, cocoa.
Nice.
All right. One of the problems people get with cocoa is they think more is better. More is not better if you've ever choked on cocoa, because this is so powdery and it's so intense. If you get too much on a bite in your spoon, you're going to choke. It's really going to not be a pleasant experience, and tiramisu should be a very pleasant experience. So when you do put it on, before you go to serve it, you want to put a nice layer on. You just don't want to get it doused. Like you'll see pictures, and I guess because it photographs better that way, it'll look like there is a layer of cocoa on it, and it really does not have to be that dense. It doesn't have to be that thick.
That looks great. You know what I was thinking before, Chef, and tell me what you think about this. The designer that I am, when I saw it before the cocoa, I was thinking, you know what? What if you took the end of a knife, a regular knife, and what if you made swirls sort of around the top, and any kind of swirling pattern. What do you think about that? And then put the cocoa on it.
Try. I've never done that. It would be worth a shot trying.
I think it could be fun. A little flourish.
And the other thing you can do is you can put chocolate shavings on it if you want to, and instead of the cocoa. Say you have a nice bar of chocolate, you can put some curls, some shavings on it. You could just take your grater and grate some chocolate on it instead of cocoa. So either way, the chocolate is just a nice touch. Again, not a deal breaker, but something that just takes it up to another level.
I have another out of the box question too. What do you think of? And this may not work at all, but what do you think about say a couple of mint leaves to just a little bit of green?
Yeah, if you're going to decorate it, you could decorate it with some. Like I said, fruit would not be out of the realm. You have to watch how wet your fruit is, or you might want to make the individuals. Like if you were going to use strawberries, put the strawberries on top, and then maybe a little more whipped cream. You don't want them to get really juicy, or make sure you're going to serve it within a few hours. Have it for dinner that night. Make individual. That's when I go to individual glasses. And like I said, the other flavors will work really well with it. It freezes. One of the best desserts I ever made was I made a chocolate tiramisu, and it did not come out, and I hated to waste it. So I made a hazelnut crust, and I put the chocolate tiramisu over it in a cheesecake pan, and I froze it. Well, it wasn't high enough, so I had to make some chocolate mousse. So I put a layer of chocolate mousse over top of that and froze it again. And then I sliced it into slices, wrapped them individually, and when I wanted one, which was at a restaurant, I would unwrap them, put them on a plate, make some hot fudge sauce, and then set it on. By the time I was done with the hot fudge sauce, it was soft enough to eat.
Oh, that's a great idea.
But if you have leftover, or you're not going to get it, put it in a cheesecake pan, or if you have I have a small cheesecake pan. You could put the like you said about going around the edge. Any fingers around the edge. I would probably not soak them if they're going around the edge, because they're going to be more decorative than the eating part of it.
Good point. And Jenna has a question. She wants to know your ratio of coffee and Kahlua, because you just sort of poured them both in.
Well, normally I say a cup of coffee and a half a cup of Kahlua. That's a little heavy-handed on the Kahlua, but that's kind of what I do. And Jan, I have the recipe, and I have videos on this. I have actually two posts. I have a step-by-step post with pictures of each step, and then I have the recipes on both of them. And they should both be adjusted, because I used to use a little more sugar, like I said, and I cut it back a little, and I use a cup. Feel free to use 3/4 of a cup. It's not overly sweet. It's right where I want it, but everybody's tastes are different, so that's why I always leave them the latitude.
And there's something I may have missed. After you assemble it, then does it need to split?
Yes.
Or can it be served right away?
If you make individual cups, you could serve it probably within 45 minutes. If you make a piece that you need to cut, it's got to set up. You have to give everything, you have to give that cheese and the cream and everything time to firm. It's not going to get real firm, but it's going to set up enough so you can slice it. Like I would do this in nines. Since this is that size pan, I would make, like a tic-tac-toe board out of it.
And how long would you want it to set up for?
I would let it sit for 4 hours.
Oh, okay.
Ashley, like we're going to have it for dinner tonight. What time is it? It's 1 o'clock. We'll have dinner at 6. It'll be perfect. If you can make it the day before, that's fine too. Like make it in the evening, let it sit overnight, and it'll be great. And then, like I said, just don't put your cocoa on it I just did it so you can see, but I would not have necessarily done that. And I said, if you put it in the refrigerator and you don't have a lot of stinky stuff in the refrigerator, I mean by like onions, broccoli, cauliflower, things that are going to send bad smells, you can leave it uncovered. But if it's going to absorb any flavors, cover it. Just put some, like I said, put some toothpicks in it, or put a platter over top of it, something that'll say, like this is coming up just a little higher than normal, as I probably put just a little bit more cream and mascarpone in. But you could cover it and then hit it with the cocoa before you start. Take the cocoa with you. Like these are great. I love these. I have one for powdered sugar and one for cocoa. And if I decorate a plate, or if I just want to put a little garnish on something when I'm doing cannolis or anything like that, I don't use them that often, but they're there when I need them. And they're nice and dry and closed up, so the stuff lasts for a long time.
Okay, so I mean, you may not want to serve this in the in the gray 8x8 or 9x9 pan. So I would think you have two choices. One, either cut it when you're about to serve it, say, they're in the living room, your guests are in the living room or whatever. You cut it up in the kitchen and then arrange it maybe onto a nice serving plate and then present it. Or I would imagine you could make that into, maybe some sort of glass Pyrex plate or another decorative oven.
Yeah, if you have a pretty bowl. I mean, I have made it in it. And it'll look better than this. And granted, this is not a beautiful bowl or anything, but something this shape would work. Yeah,
it shows the texture. It shows the textures through the glass. That's what I'm thinking.
This is what I make it in when I make it for a lot. But again, too, I'm a chef and I'm not as concerned with the aesthetics of it as the flavor.
That's what I'm here for.
Yeah, that's what you're here for. But I mean, this is my normal size. So I cut it down from this to that today.
Wow. That might be just good enough for my husband and I for 4 days. For 4 days.
So, you can easily, you don't want to get it so large when you're making it. Some people will say, can I triple it? Well, you get to making the sapione, and that's where you're going to run into problems. I could go 9 eggs, which would be 1.5 times, without any issues. But when I start hitting like 12 or 15, I'm going to start to have problems making sure that it all gets cooked, it all gets done properly. So you just want to watch the volume, and it's going to take longer. You're going to get more tired. That's when you start to have it.
That's true. That's a good point. That's a good point because it is a workout, and better to enjoy it and do it when you're confident, and keep that confidence factor.
And again, like I said, if if you're serving 30 people and you don't think, if you want to like kind of make 1.5 times, get those little, they sell those little nice, I have a whole different series of different kind of little dessert cups that are enough for a taste, because generally when you're serving that many people, you're not giving them one thing. You're giving them different desserts. You're letting them taste it.
Yeah.
In small enough sizes, or get some small souffle cups or something pretty, something that you're going to use time and time again. Libby's made this whole series of little like dessert glasses, little parfaits, and there were 8 of them in a thing. So I bought like 4 different kinds of them. So if I was doing that many, they don't have to all match. It's cute. You could put different ones on different plates and make them look great. You could break them up with raspberries. You could put some raspberries.
Yeah, that sounds good.
This cream is so good, and it goes so well with fruit. That you could just have a great time with it. Some people just serve the marscapone with fruit. It's such a nice cheese, but this cream is so nice. You could whip it, leave it in the bowl, and let it sit up a little bit, and then make your desserts a little later. So you're just going to have to turn it a little bit to get it back into that nice pliable softness when you set your desserts up.
Okay, so let me just repeat something. I'm sorry if I missed it. There's just been so much amazing information. But can I make this whole thing a day ahead? Oh my gosh, look at that. I mean, that's just, I just want to get a spoon, like a large spoon.
I just want to.
That's what I want to do. So can I make it a day ahead?
Yes.
Okay, good. Then you know what? Then that makes
just don't
even more enjoyable.
Cocoa on it till you're going to serve it. But yeah, you can make it a day ahead. You can make it Friday for Sunday. Just keep it well covered and chilled, and it'll be fine. It's going to hold up as long as you make the whipped cream properly. You give it time to whip. Remember, we talked about that. Don't push it. If you're just serving it now in a pie and you don't have 10 minutes, fine. Whip the crap out of it. Get it to whipped cream and serve it. But if you're putting in a dessert that you expect to hold up, take your time, be gentle with it. Do it like in 3 stages, at 2 for a couple minutes, at 4 for a couple minutes, at 6 for a couple minutes, and then a little bit of a blast at the end. So give your whipped cream time so the volume stays and then it will break down. The Sabayone's good, that's good. Like I said, I have over 500 comments on that. And out of those, I think there's maybe a dozen that have run into problems with it. And that's usually because you don't follow directions.
Yeah, right. There's always a small percentage.
I have one, the guy used old eggs because he wrote back and he said, I think my eggs were too old. Because sometimes if you don't eat eggs regularly, you're buying them and you don't realize they've been in there for a month.
Wow.
And if you bought them old, so he went back and says, I got organic new eggs, came out perfectly. So, different things can make different fails for different reasons.
That's great. Great information. There has been so many good nuggets of information in the show.
Pop in and say hello. Come on in. We're having fun here making tiramisu. I won't be able to eat it till tonight, but if you go on my website, AskChefDennis.com, you can find step by step. You can find. I have actually 2 posts, and if you look at my sidebar, one of the most popular posts is my tiramisu, and if you Google tiramisu, I usually come up.
And likewise, any kitchen design questions, ask me, look me up, Susan Sarah. So who do we have here? Brittany.
Hi, guys. So I'm not sure if you covered it because I did tune in late, but I was wondering if, I know that people make them in, different kind of forms. Mm-hmm. It's not always a cake. Is there, a different way to do, kind of, I don't know what they're called, a Claire kind of style?
Well, you can shape it anywhere. This is the classical interpretation. I've used different dessert glasses. We were talking about little parfait glasses. And all you're going to do at that point, and if you're using different fruit, you can still use these. You might not just want to soak them in coffee because fruit will still go good with it. But depending upon what you're making, you might just want to make a little bit of a simple syrup, soak them in, or just leave them crunchy. Or you can almost omit these if they're
Chef, I'm wondering if Brittany means around, like I mentioned before, a round sort of glass form. Is that kind of what you're thinking, Brittany?
I guess just making them individually rather than
individually. Okay.
Yeah, I would use parfait glass then. Let me get one of the glasses I use. I'll be right back.
I wonder if people soak the cake in decaf coffee.
Oh, I don't know. With everything so rich, what's the point? You have the sugar, you have the eggs, you may as well go full bore.
This is something that I've used for making.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, anything like this. And then if you are making individual ones, you just break these up, put them in the bottom a little bit like that, with soak them if you're using them regular. And you might not want to put 2 layers. You can always just take a half of one and stick it in it like that for decoration at the end. That's a little cocoa. And like I said, I have made these with peach. So I use the cream and the peaches and fruit layered in between because the cream is delicious.
I would love a raspberry and a mint leaf on top.
Yeah, the cream is one of the best. And I've taken the cream and made ice cream out of it too. So that works really well. But as for decaf, yeah, you can use decaf.
I don't want to use decaf. I was just wondering if people did that.
Brittany, did you see the part where Chef added the Kahlua? Just pour it right in there. Coffee and Kahlua, one in each hand.
Yeah, it was probably closer to. It wasn't 1 to 2. It was a little.
Oh, this is awesome. This is like my favorite dessert too. So
it's we made it. I mean, I've made this in a half an hour. It's not a hard dessert. The hardest part is the sabayon in the beginning.
Or the waiting.
The waiting is the worst. But, for me, it's not as bad because I know what it tastes like. I love it. I'm going to eat it, but I can't wait for other people to try it.
Yeah.
Like when I get messages on my blog and they'll say, "All right, we just made it. Wish me luck. It looks good." I'm going, because they'll write back later. A lot of them say, "Oh my God, I can't believe how good it was."
Oh man, that's awesome. I'm going to let someone else jump in, but it was awesome to see you again.
Thanks, and thanks for sending us out in the newsletter. Appreciate that.
Good to see you. Hey, Claude wants to know when we're doing the pizza show. We haven't done pizza.
No, we haven't.
Oh my gosh, we have to do pizza.
We're going to have to. I haven't made a pizza in a long time. I was thinking about actually doing bread too, but that takes a while. You have to make it, let it rise. That would be like a day-long show almost, where we'd have to keep it running. So, but pizza would be an easy one. You know what I was thinking of too was scones. I love scones.
Oh, I love scones. Lemon blueberry.
Yeah, they're so easy to make.
Blueberry or raspberry, love it.
So we'll get into that next week. I think we are doing next week. Next week is chicken pepperoni. I think we're going to some savory. Nice. So chicken pepperoni is one of my favorite dishes.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, anything like that, my husband is all over it.
So that's it. If anybody wants to jump in, come on in. If not, we're gonna links for the recipe. Yeah, I will get them for you, and I'll put them in here. Put the recipe links in. Let me see if I can find it via. This way, I have to reach over. Do you have any other questions while we are here?
Yep, I think everyone just wants a spoon. Everyone just wants to dig in. I mean, this is torture. A little bit of torture here.
I know. Like I said, I don't even know what I'm making for dinner. I think I'll make some fish or something to make it not as quite
balance it out, right?
Oops. Come on.
Food porn.
Dun, dun, dun. I need music while we're doing this, like we call it Jeopardy music.
Yeah, that's right. That's what we need.
All right, let me do this way. I can't get it. This way.
Yeah, I mean, that's something I have to make. That's, that may not be a weekday thing. Maybe that's a weekend thing, but I think that has to go in the repertoire.
Yeah, once you make it the first time and you see that it was easier than you expected. There we go. There it is. Okay, there's the link to the post, and the recipe's printable in there, so you can print it out and take it with you. And this is, I make chocolate mousse using a sabayon. It's a little bit different method, but it's spectacular as well. Yeah, good. Please, John, try it. And yeah, it's not difficult, and this will be better than just about anything you've ever had.
No, that's a big statement.
I stand by it because
I know you don't usually. You're usually more low key, so
this is the best tiramisu you'll ever make. Wow. I started you'll ever have, and I went, well, there is some pretty good stuff in Italy, so I'm going to say you'll ever make. It is the best tiramisu you'll ever make, and it'll beat just about any restaurant tiramisu you've had. And again, mostly because they just don't quite get that blend of flavors right. There's mock tiramisus. There's way you can use. Somebody says, "Can I use?" Dream Whip in it, the frozen stuff, Cool Whip. And I go, well, you can, but why go to all that trouble and ruin it with cold?
Yeah.
With the damn cream, Sparky. Like, so you can do some things to make it easier, but this is classic. This is tiramisu that no one will that even your Italian grandmother will tell you is good.
It has all the good stuff in it.
Yeah. So, but I mean, I have had tiramisu on the Spanish Steps right near them in a little restaurant that was amazing. So this is pretty darn good too. Oh, did we lose something? I hope it wasn't me.
It looks it.
If it was, there we are. Okay. I don't know who froze then, but we froze.
All looks good on my end.
Okay. All right. So that's it for Around the Kitchen Table for today. And thank you so much for coming. Susan, as always, a pleasure to see you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And try it and let me know how it worked out. And bring your friends over to Blab and tell them about my cooking show. Next week, we'll be doing chicken pepperoni. All right. See y'all later.
Bye-bye.